Good evening. Talking about Jesus. Would you all please stand with me while she's coming here and opens us in prayer this evening?
Dear gracious Father, we come tonight to give thanks to your holy and righteous name. We thank you, Father, for this great nation, this state, city, this county in which we live. God, now we ask now, Father, that you will grant us the right way to lead and direct. We thank you for the blessing that you have given us with our new superintendent. We pray for him and his family. We pray for our school board. We pray for every member of our team, and we pray for all of our teachers, students, and parents. God, we ask now, Father, as we get ready to enter this new school year, we ask that you will lead us, guide us, and direct us. Help us to make decisions, oh Father, that will be pleasing in your sight. And Lord, we give you all praise, honor, and glory in the most powerful name we know. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will call this meeting to order in the H.J. Palliser Administration Building Boardroom on August 1st, 2022. There is a quorum present with 6 of 7 trustees in attendance. Please note this is a regular called meeting and has been posted in the time and manner required. We will now move on to the next item of business, which is our celebration of excellence. The celebration of excellence. Okay. Audience with patrons. This is an opportunity for community members to address the board. This is your time and privilege to say what you want. However, with that privilege comes responsibility. I encourage each speaker to remember that we are here for the same purpose, which is to do what is best for all students in Bay City ISD. Additionally, if within your comments you include complaints or charges against a Bay City ISD officer or employee by name, we will stop you in accordance with the Texas Government Code. And at that time, you'll be given the opportunity to continue with your comments that do not involve specific individuals, or you can file a grievance. We have one speaker this evening, Mrs. Nelson. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. We appreciate you coming out this evening.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Good, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak to you this evening. I'm Mary Helen Nelson, the wife of Eddie Nelson, and I'm here this evening to officially request that the Bay City Independent School District Board of Trustees vote to name the Bay City High School Gymnasium after Edward Wayne Nelson. Eddie was a teacher in Bay City ISD for 40 years and Bay City High School head basketball coach for 36 years. Ed started his career in 1967 in Mineral Wells, Texas, where he lettered in football, basketball, baseball, and track, and received athletic scholarships in each of those sports to Division I schools. He received his associate degree from Lauren Morris College in Jacksonville, Texas, his Bachelor of Science from Howard Payne University in Brownwood, Texas, and his Master of Science from Prairie UAM in Prairie, Texas. Coach Nelson started his coaching career as an assistant coach at Howard Payne University in Brownwood. And then 1 year later, he applied for a job here in Bay City and received the position where in 1972, he was given that position, and he's been here for 36 years. During those 36 years, he led the Bay City Black Cats to 16 district championships, 13 by-district championships, 12 area championships, 5 regional championships, 6 regional finalists, 5 state appearances, 4 state semifinalists, and 1 semifinal championship and 1 state championship in 1985. His overall record is 745 wins and 357 losses. Coach Nelson was named 16 times as Coach of the Year and the most notorious in a decade for 80 district games won in a row. And in 1980 to 1990, he also had 4 teams to be in the decade. And their records was 25-1, 35-1, 34-1, and 31-1. And the Houston 4A Basketball Association named Coach Nelson the coach of the decade. One of his players, was Bradford Smith, was named the player of the decade, best player in America, and was #1 first round draft choice for the Washington Wizards. Coach Nelson received a certificate of special recognition from the Texas House of Representatives and the Texas Senate in 1985. And he was named into Who's Who in America basketball, the top elite programs in basketball in America, and recognized by the Texas High School Coaches Association for milestones 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 for the Sportsman Award for the 4A basketball. In 1999, he received, at Middle Wells High School, he received the Mountaineer Award, which he was put in the Hall of Fame for football. And then in 2002, they put him in the Hall of Fame in Middle Wells for basketball. And then in 2001, Bay City High School Black Cats Hall of Fame put him in the Bay City Black Cat Hall of Fame. And in 2017, he was inducted to the Texas Association of Basketball Coaches Hall of Fame in San Antonio, Texas. He also served from 1990 to 1992 as a UIL Basket Advisory Committee member. In the 36 years as a coach in Bay City High School, Coach Nelson had 19 playoff appearances, 15 high school All-Americans, and 53 players who received scholarships to Division I colleges and universities. My husband is an apostle of hard work in advancing their goals for himself and the student athletes. He has influenced many young men and women in Metabuena County, some of them very excellent citizens and leaders today in Bay City. Since his retirement, he still attends Bay City High School games, studying the plays and the notes and the strengths and the weaknesses that I have to hear. And Coach Nelson is a black cat forever. Blue and gold run through his veins. He lets everybody know that he's a Bay City black cat. He's also a very good man. He believes in the love of God, family, and community. He asks God 3 things daily. How do I please the Lord? How do I do his will? And how do I carry out God's way in my life? Eddie and I are members of Family Worship Center in Bay City. George Kraft is our pastor. In 2015 and 2021, Coach Nelson served as a trustee member on this board for 6 years. It was his way of giving back to the students and to the teachers and to the Bay City community. Coach Nelson's legendary career speaks for itself, and it should meet the Bay City ISD board guidelines. To the Bay City, to the present Bay City ISD trustee board, with your caring attitude and your honesty and your integrity and your blessing, do the right thing and take into consideration naming the Bay City High School Gymnasium after Coach Edward Wayne Nelson. Thank you. God bless. Black cats never die.
Thank you very much. We will move on to the next item, which is LSG. Hello, sir. How are you this evening?
Good.
Good. Welcome.
That is going to be really hard to follow.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah. So just looking at last month, I was like to go back and review the previous month before we begin looking at this month's visit. You had a meeting that was 114 minutes long, 19 of it was closed session. That's really short. That was good. And then, so it was a total of 95 minutes that you're accountable for, one start reference. 52 minutes was spent on student outcome related matters. 55% for that particular meeting. Now, you remember we did your evaluation last time, and I told you I don't look too happy, okay? So let's go back and we'll just pull this. This is the last document that's in your packet there, and I went back and after at the time and everything, I was able to recalculate. So you actually scored 56 points, which is really good. It's 4 points below being on the leaderboard, which is really good. We're gonna get there, all right? And then you're, for the last 3 months, for the 3-month average, you're at 47% of your meetings spent on student outcome related matters. So that's really good progress, very good progress. So we're keeping track of that. Appreciate Caitlin sending you the meeting times, and we'll revisit that each month as we meet. So looking at what we're considering this month, we're going to be reviewing the board constraints and superintendent constraints for this past year. So let's just start with the superintendent constraints. And when we look at those, the first one was that the superintendent shall not fail to participate in a board building activity attended by 100% of the team there. And so actually, I saw that we had the LSG training that we did back in about a year ago in September, first part of September, and 100% of the board was there, along with the superintendent. So I counted that as credit for that. And then we're planning on coming on the 23rd this month, and that's a team building activity. And so we're going to cover board workshop, team building workshop. We're going to cover Robert's Rules of Order, roles and responsibilities of superintendent board. And then we'll also start a conversation about superintendent evaluation. And so Ms. Westmoreland had asked me to put that on there. And so we can start that conversation and work on that this fall with our new superintendent and get something together for you that would be really good that you would like using. The second constraint was the superintendent shall not allow the ADA to drop below 91%. And I think you can be really proud of the fact, even though in a normal year we would not be proud of this, but your overall average in January is 93%. You had 92% in March and 92% in the month at the end in June here. And so given the situation with COVID, 92% was a pretty good average, like looking around the region. There were only a few districts that had a better average attendance. The next one, constraint number 3, was the superintendent shall not allow a month to go by without visiting each campus during a student activity or at lunchtime. And you can see the previous superintendent's record on that was stellar, and he was on the campuses regularly, as reported by him and the secretary and by the principals as well. When you look at superintendent constraint number 4, this had to do with the turnover rate. So I contacted Ms. Moya and Jordan, and we looked at that. And just to give you an idea, this year, at the beginning of the year, you had 221 employees in the district, and there were 58 resignations. So that's a 26% turnover rate this year. As compared to, and we're not sure how the data was collected and ended up last year, but it looks like it's 10% higher. I think it was 16% in the previous year. So it's up. And so I asked Jordan if she could speak to that and kind of explain what her plan is going forward to help reduce that turnover.
Yes. So I know we spoke back in May. We had the presentation regarding recruiting and retention and what we wanted to do moving forward. So I just wanted to kind of highlight the key points of what our focus for the 22-23 school year is. That's to continue to collaborate and market. We also want to do more team building campus morale and have a greater focus on relationship building amongst our staff. So that's our goal for the 22-23 school year. Yeah.
So, you know, if you wanted to consider that more specific, since it is personnel, it's something that you can take up in closed session if you wanted to look at more detail on that, because the numbers are so small. I just think that would not be something you want to talk about, because there might be person that would provide more information. Some of that. Okay, so those are our superintendent constraints for 21-22, and we don't plan on changing those. The leadership team met, and unless the board wants to make an adjustment, I think those will be what we'll stay with this coming year. And we'll just have a new team that will be monitoring and keeping track of all that. Now, when we look at the board constraints, you have 4 of them, and I'm just going to run through those, and you just need to let us know if anything happened that would be out of line with this. But the first constraint was topics in closed session shall not be discussed outside of the executive session. The second is the board shall not allow discussion outside of agenda items during the meetings. And the third one was the board shall not allow less than 50% of their time in meetings to be spent on student outcomes, which you're very close to that, very proud of you for that. And then the board shall not allow a year to go by without holding a team building activity with 100% attendance. So you've already accomplished that once, and you're getting ready to do it again, because you're all going to be here on the 23rd. All right. So those of you that are here tonight, I think this is a fantastic thing that the board is holding themselves accountable for this. And this is something that they came up with themselves after the 2-day workshop. And so they're really focusing on making student outcomes the prime concern. And what the research shows is that boards who spend more time focused on student outcomes can expect elevated results when accountability matters are considered. And so we appreciate you, applaud you for keeping that in front. Now, the next thing that we had to talk about was our goal progress measures, and our monitoring calendar for next year. As I mentioned, we met with the leadership team recently, and we went over these things. Let's see if I can. I'm not sure how well everybody's going to be able to see this, but we're going to give it a try. So those of you that have a folder, board members and administrators should be able to look on from there. And I'm hoping that the audience will be able to see this as well. But our goals, we have 5 goals, and of course, they're all going to stay the same. And when we reviewed this is the data we're shooting for through 2024, with steady increases all along. And then when you go to goal progress measure 1.1, you're going to notice in some of these goal progress measures that we're asking to approve, we have a blank on the baseline. And that is because we're going to wait until we give the diagnostic test at the very beginning and create our baseline based on that first test. And so then when we come back to you in September, October, once we have the results of the test, we'll have that filled in. And then we're asking you to kind of, it's not signing a blank check. Giving us the ability to get a baseline instead of throwing something out there that means nothing. And so we felt like it'd be better to give the kids a test, and then we kind of have an idea of where we are at the beginning. And we're trying to create these goal progress measures so they actually can show you growth or a lack thereof. You're going to be able to actually track how the kids are doing as they go through the year. So that's what we're really striving to do with these goal progress measures. And so the kinder students are going to be, we're going to be using in class to evaluate their growth. And Ms. Moya, can you tell us a little bit about that test? Is that pretty labor intensive?
It is not. In fact, we've used it for, this will be our 3rd year starting in class. It was on the state, the new commissioners approved list of reading instruments. We've also adopted the in-class math, and it ties in directly to interventions. The data we get drives the interventions that we can provide for students.
Thank you very much. So goal progress measure 1.2 deals with the first grade students, and again we're going to wait on the baseline and the target until we have that data from our diagnostic test at the beginning of the year, and we'll set that up. And we're going to be looking at these subgroups that you see in these goal progress measures. Those are all the subgroups you are accountable for through TDA. So we looked at your paper report and gathered those from that. And so we know we're going to be looking at each of these subgroups every time we report. And so the dates on here are the ones that you're going to see in your monitoring calendar in just a minute. So our goal progress measure 1.3 is for second grade, and again, we're using in class. So going on to number 2, the goal is the same. It's this is for math, STAR math at the 3rd grade level. And so we're looking for at kinder students using it in class again for math. And we're going to do the same thing. Like we said, we're going to do the diagnostic test at the beginning. At that level, set a target based on what we think it can achieve. And it should be predictive of the outcome at the end of the year on the STAR test, and it should be influenceable by students. 2.2 is for 1st grade. We're going to still use it in class, and 2nd grade is 2.3. Now, when we go over to goal number 3, now you'll notice on the, when we see the goal, we've got the projected, the chart at the bottom. As we fill in the data on this template from month to month, it'll populate the charts to show you whether you're making progress or not. So that'll be kind of along as we go. So for 3, it's the percentage of 23 graduating seniors meeting the Texas Success Initiative in both ELA reading and math will increase from 14 to 95% by August of 2023. So we're gonna isolate just the senior class and look at that group this year as we go along. 3.2 is the percentage of 23 graduates earning an industry-based certificate will increase from 18 to 40% by August of 2023. And I know that the high school is working on that to try to get kids chartered into those programs so that they can get those industry-based certificates. And I know they're constantly looking at ways to improve that program. And then the goal progress measure 3.3 is to the percentage of graduates earning dual credit enrollment credits will increase from 19 to 30% by August of 2023. So we're hoping as we look at this, we're going to look at it at a baseline in September. That's what we're doing next month is goal 3 and those 3 goal progress measures. And what Estelle is going to give you next month is a real good rundown on the enrollments in each of these areas and what she's doing for TSI, how many opportunities they have to test, how many kids in the senior class already have passed the TSI credit, got credit for that, how many of them already have industry-based certificates, how many are signed up for dual credit, and then she'll be able to project for you what she's expecting. And then you'll see we're going to come back in January and we'll have a report. We're thinking you're going to see that chart going up through the roof. And then just like it was last month, that beautiful report that Estella gave us at the end of last month. So that's goal 3. When we go to goal 4, now goal 4 and 5 are both about math because we felt like this is our spot we need to really be working on. And so 4.1 deals with 3rd grade, and we're using STAR release benchmark math assessment for 3rd grade. So Ms. Moya, would you like to kind of explain, we've moved away from in-class, we're using this. Can you kind of explain to the board why we wanted to use this?
Sure. This past year was our first year in Lone Star governance, and as you know, we didn't start the Lone Star governance process until October or November. So at that time, we always give 2 spring benchmarks, one about January, one in the spring. We did not give at the beginning of the year. And so the data we reported as a baseline was data from a curriculum-based assessment that was from 1 unit. And what we saw this year is that when we compare that to 2 full benchmarks, it didn't show you true apples to apples. So this year, what we're going to do, we're going to participate in TEA's BOY assessment in Cambium. We're going to do that. We have our window set for the end of September. We're going to give that as a baseline, and then we will give the 2nd and 3rd benchmark throughout the year, and you'll truly be comparing apples to apples this year.
Thank you. Yeah, we learned a lot this last year. You know, working through this, and there were some hard conversations in the middle of the year. You know, remember those months where we would have to explain why the scores look like they're dropping, when in effect it was just more difficult things. We weren't testing the same thing. We started out testing. So 4.1 is 3rd grade. We're going to do the same thing at 4.2, but it's with 4th grade. We're going to use the STAR release benchmark math assessment, and 4.3 deals with the 5th graders. So then we go to goal 5, and again, that is for math as well. And so we're gonna use star release benchmarks for goal 5, and we're looking at 5th grade, 5.1, 6th grade, 5.2, and 7th grade is 5.3. So those are your goals, and your goal progress measures have been adjusted. Yes.
It says we're gonna increase from 72 to 72.
On
So
goal 5.
Yeah, do you want to
it doesn't
explain
seem like
that?
an increase by definition alone.
You're right, you're right. So I remember we said that with some, we talked about
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't on the right page when you
it. Okay.
that question. So our 8th graders, as you know, they've always been very high performing. The baseline that you see there for 2019, that was actually their star results. We had 72% master in 2019 for 8th grade. We did drop during 2021, when we had a partial closure because of COVID. We came back up in August 2022. This year we had 55% meet. So our goal is to get back to that 72, and I have every expectation that we will get there. Although we only, if you look at August 21 to August 22, that doesn't look like a big jump. I do want you to consider that if we're looking at cohorts of students, those that were 8th graders this year at 55% meets, last year were 7th graders and had the lowest star scores for math in the district. So if you look at the cohort themselves, they grew in double digits, actually. So our goal is to get back to the 72% where we were in 2019, which is above the state average for me.
Good catch, James. Like that, okay, awesome, yes.
I asked Lisa a question.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
always want to talk to anyone, go to HB, they have great conversations.
All right, good.
I met Lisa in HB the other day, and just one of those moments. I'm always asking how we can bring up the African American schools. And I see that we made great gains, and I am happy about that. Still, we are still falling short. So I'm asking the administrators and the teachers, when we are taking those tests, after each test, are you looking at individual students, and are those students tracked from year to year? Say that if I was in 3rd grade and I did not pass the test. And I went to the next grade, are you looking at me or are you looking at a total overall? Can that be done to help us out to see how we can bring those kids up? Or, and not look at a grade level as a whole? Because in my mind, so correct me, I think if we start looking at those individual students, and if they are consistently failing each test, to me, then those are those kids that we need to focus on and pull those kids and not let them drop, fall in the wayside. Am I asking too much? Am I moving? Am I hearing that you done?
No, ma'am. In fact, what you're describing is academic RTI, where we look at individual students. And when we look at our African American population overall for our district, that's about 12 to 15%. So in a class, let's say a grade level of 250 students, you're looking at 25, 30 students that we could really hone in on, not just our African American students that aren't doing well, but also our Hispanic, economically disadvantaged, our ELLs. So that's one thing that definitely we can strengthen in our district is our RTI process, not just at the tested grade levels, but something that the elementaries have been working on. And I'm looking at Ms. Wendell and she's nodding her head because her campus has worked very, very hard this year at the RTI process, even at the elementary level. Because if we don't hone in on those academic gaps for individuals there, then they just get bigger and bigger by the time that they start. So yes, ma'am, that's something we can do. And that will be a goal to increase that.
And with the M class that we're doing, I see parents on this part. I think we are doing it all over the place. With the M class testing, when you get those results this term around, don't be disappointed. Because right now, going off the summer, coming back to be tested, you expect to see a drop. But I think the key to all of that as parents and as communities, we need to make sure that our kids are learning all the time. I picked up on another thing with my little niece, loves to learn, but we almost lost her this year. She hated school. So, but I can teach her all day long, it's just simply that the thought of going to school scared her to death. I don't know what happened yet, but I've been working. So the other day, I wanted to read to her, and she didn't feel like reading. So what I did was switch the TV channel parents and made her read every title. And she had to read and tell me as I scrolled down. And she got so excited on the things that she could read. So when I say let's keep our kids learning all the time, not everything waiting on the school district to do it, but as parents, that's something that we can do. We have to on our kids and see what we can do as parents to help out. And you are absolutely right about the school board ownership in this learning, because we are reflective. It's a reflection of what we do and how we present ourselves, and it falls on. So I am very proud. That's extra. I made even like I'm getting it, and I'm almost having nightmares about it, but I'm getting it. And it's lots to do that. So I think we are making some gains there, and I'm expecting more as we move forward. I'm expecting more.
We are
From
making
James,
gains.
when I agree with James, oh my God, I last week we've been doing that. But I think that it's because we are presenting ourselves better to the community. And, I am going to take this word out of my vocabulary, because when I meet people, I say, oh, we're talking about the dysfunction of board. And you know, I'm taking it out. I think we're okay. And I'm getting it, and I'm proud.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
Moving forward. The train has left the station and we're gonna keep chugging. Yes.
But thank you, I wanted to ask Tony about the grants.
And that is exactly the kind of dialogue we have. And I can't wait to see what leadership of the superintendent's going to help assure those goals. And so let's just hope that going forward, it's not nightmares, it's sweet. That's what I'm pretty sure it's going to be.
Trustee Robinson, thank you for your words. And thank you for your thoughts this evening. And I would like to say that I enjoyed difficult conversations. Jerry Manning, Coach, and I, and the rest of the board at the time used to talk about the African American stories. And it's not something that we just brush under the rug. It's right here. Everybody can see it. They're low. Okay, not your child, but overall they're low. Okay, there's something that we can do here, and I don't know what it is, but we got to have an open dialogue around it. And a rising tide lifts all boats. And so let's help all of our children, but let's help the ones that need the help the most too.
Exactly.
And not
that's the
forget about it.
conversation that I'm looking forward to, not just the board, but with the administrators, you are the board, you are the captain of the ship. Let us follow your lead, you tell us, and we will be there to help you. And also the dialogue with community members and friends. We have to be open and honest with our parents. We can't sugarcoat anything for them. Hey, baby, your baby is doing well, you know, I need you to do this, and that to get there. But I think that conversation.
I think we are moving in that direction. I think going back to Mrs. Moya's comment about Ms. Wendell's campus, just seeing last year we presented things, seeing the ownership of the students, I think is another huge aspect that we have to get from the pre-K all the way up to high school, for those kids to know where they are, to know what the goal is and how to get there. So I think those conversations that happen at this table around LSG is moving us in that direction for students to take ownership, so then their parents can help them lift them up, and we can all work together as a greater community to get to those goals. So
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this year. I think we're going to turn the corner and see some great things happen. And there's already good movement in a lot of areas, so it's excellent. Now, there is another document in your folder and it's the monitoring calendar. The print on it is kind of small, I'm sorry about that, but I think you read it. Anyway, this lays out everything that was in the different goal progress measures we looked at when we did the monitoring report. And so, but it also adds the months that you're going to get your board evaluation. It lays out some training for you. We're going to look at the superintendent constraint progress measures and the board progress measures. And also,
I can actually see it. I'm near your side.
What do you want to read to? I can see you all.
I shouldn't have said anything.
But I do have a question.
Okay.
So we do the superintendent evaluation in January now, but we had a July contract, so it was always July, January. Do we change that because now we're gonna have an August
No,
contract,
generally
or is
you
it still a
I
July?
mean, you can do what you want to do. There's boards around the region that are doing, like twice a year evaluations. Most still just do one annual evaluation. I personally feel like it's best to do it in January, because if there's gonna be a transition, and we hope that doesn't happen at any time in the future, but let's say that there is for some reason, then, it's good time. If you're trying, you know how difficult it is to hire somebody this time of year, because you just been through it. So, yeah, that's why it's good to have it in January. So what we're gonna need for you to do, but there's something else we wanted to talk about, and that is, we need to get serious now. We're gonna have new leadership, and we're gonna have an opportunity to move forward with some initiatives, and I really appreciate Trustee Robinson's comments tonight. And it just seems like there's a lot of positive energy going in the right direction. That needs to come across to the community. If we want real change, real systemic change to happen in Bay City ISD, it's got to involve. It's got to involve all the people, the parents, the community members. So it's going to be the board taking the lead, getting out there and communicating what you're doing with Lone Star Governance. And you're all focused on student outcomes. That's what you're focused on. It's beautiful. And so there's some different ideas that other districts are doing. Town hall meetings, where you have an agenda and you have some ideas, you let people talk, and you listen to them, and then you present what you're trying to do to student outcomes. It's just a big gathering of people that can come together and hear what you're about. Others are using like Chamber of Commerce meetings, association meetings, different service clubs. One district in the region did a bingo night. They had like everybody showed up. And they had 3 board members there that did a little PowerPoint presentation about their Lone Star Governance work, and the community really responded well. Another one, they have their football games on the radio. So the board members chipped in money from their pocket to buy airtime, and at halftime, they sat up in the press box and talked about their goals with Lone Star Governance. And it went out to all the people in the community that were listening to football. Just some creative ideas, on how to get the message out. Those are some things. But it has to come from you guys. You're the ones that need to generate that and think about it. If I can support you in that, like with this PowerPoint presentation we developed, anything like that that we can support you with. And by the way, the frames for the posters came in today, and my secretary went to pick them up. I think she went down today. There's 27 of them. So I hope she had help. But the team building workshop is coming up on the 23rd, as I mentioned before, and we've already reviewed the evaluation from last month in the integrity instrument. And next month, we're going to be doing goal 3, as I mentioned. So I do need you to take action and improve all of that. There was one other thing. We have a new trustee and a new superintendent that need to get the Lone Star Governance workshop. We are doing one in Goliad. They're coming on board with us. We're doing that on August 19th and 20th. We're doing one in Runge on September 9th and 10th. And we're doing one in Wharton on September 30th and October 1st. So Runge's already been with us, Goliad and Wharton are joining us. And so those are opportunities. I'll send Caitlin the dates so that you have those. And if y'all want to sign in for it.
You'll also send those to me.
Sure, I'll do it.
We can make sure that everybody gets.
Be glad to do it.
Great.
Again, it's a privilege to work in Bay City. I just thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Before I go, there's two people that walked in here I want to introduce. Missy Clemenchek is, she's our newest Lone Star governance coach. She just finished her certification. And she's also my boss. And she was my board president for six years. So yeah, I'm on our school board, so it's glad to have her here. And also Debbie Claxton, and she is in training to become a coach. Of course, we already have Morris Lyon, so there's gonna be 4 of us.
Great. For being here. Thank you, Tony, and thank you for the work that's happening. As you can tell, the discussion is changing in our board meetings. And we're focusing more on student outcomes because that's what we believe as a board is what's going to change this district. And I believe that it is happening before our eyes. Through the summer and just moving forward, I think we are setting our district up for great success going into this new school year. As far as community engagement activities, I know that a couple of board members have said they would like to take the PowerPoint or just take a conversation. If we can just talk about that as a group, if there are places that you want to go, I'm sure that Dr. McCaslin would want to join in, and then we can't have more than 3 of us, obviously, at a place without creating a forum. So just so we can communicate, I don't know if anybody has any specific places off the top of their head that they want to go immediately, but I know things are kicking off.
I'd like to get it to the Lions Club,
Okay,
the county judge, maybe volunteer. You can help me make that happen.
right.
And obviously the Rotary.
Rotary.
And I'd like to be the presenter, or at least a
Okay.
co-presenter at both of those locations.
And yes,
And also, we're talking about spokespeople in the community, Judge Bates only thinks that he's got a job. So we can get off of that. But he's a great mouthpiece.
yes,
Community as well. I have totally enjoyed his friendship and everything, but I know when he sets his heart on something, it gets done. So you're not retired.
He's just not gonna get paid for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the community.
And
That's
then
right.
the other one is Angela Heath. Now, a great mouthpiece, and she can make things happen. I used to think that I was good. I really did. I thought it was me, but Angela makes me with this little, and the things that she has done and is continuing to do. So I would like for us to, and Dr. Mack, to meet Angela. Angela has a water day that's coming up. What is it, Angela?
Well, let that go. Last year, when we start helping our kids in our community, if you give me instructions about the STARS test, how to get our kids in the TEAS test, I'll set up a workshop in my community and make sure you get a monthly report. Not just for the blacks, because it's not totally up for the school and the teachers. You got a hard enough job when you're messing with students from different backgrounds. But if the African Americans grades are so low, that's when our community need to find a spot in South Bend and say, I need to have a meeting. You can email your child's teacher and check up on your child once a month. How is Sashay doing in her math? And the teacher emails that, well, she's not doing good. Well, Angie's gonna start up something in South Bend. Would you like her to go on Saturdays? And if you give me 5 math test questions, I don't care what is X over Z. I can get it to them, but I have to use African American skills to make them want to learn. But if you give me the practice, I think the TSI is good. And the STARS test, I can start that in my community because we want everybody to be the same. Enough is enough. If you just don't slip them through, that doesn't mean anything.
right. Well, let's get together and have a conversation.
Okay.
After the meeting, definitely.
Okay.
Would love to do that. I know this Friday is First Friday, and I have invited Dr. Mack and myself to go to talk, just district, introduce him, let him talk for a few minutes. So that's something that will be happening. And then I've also started talking, principals, I know y'all are about to have parent nights. Can we jump in for a few minutes to do something there to really reach our community and our parents that come to that? Because I know parents show up for that type of stuff. So we need to start getting creative and start having this dialogue of how we can get that community engagement, because I do think that that's going to be the piece that is the real next level for Bay City ISD, is to get the community truly involved and let them know what we're doing here on a regular basis. So that is that. I know we need a motion. Is there a motion to be made pertaining to LSG.
I make a motion to approve LSG as presented.
Okay, so there's been a motion to approve LSG for the 22-23 school year. Is there a second to the motion? Same time. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further conversation? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes 6-0. So we are moving forward with LSG. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you and staff for all your work. It is not unnoticed. It is a lot of work and we are ready to move it to the next level. So thank you. We are going to kind of move a little bit around this evening. We're going to go ahead and go into executive session and convene into closed session and consider and discuss hiring superintendent and approval of superintendent contract pursuant to the Texas Government Code, section 551.074, and personnel matters, if necessary, may be taken into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074 to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, resignation, and dismissal of public officer or employee, including contract recommendations for campus and district level administrators and teachers. So we will move into closed session at 6:46. We'll resume back into open session 7:08 PM.
Thank you. It is bittersweet that I say goodbye. I want to first thank the board for the opportunity. It has been a real delight to be here in Bay City. I did not think I was going to get this attached, but I have gotten attached. I want to thank the administration building and the principals for all of your cooperation. I know I pushed, but I knew you were ready to. And everything that needed to get done got done for the summer and more. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I am a black cat now. Can't take it away. I want to say to Dr. McCaslin, you are a very lucky superintendent. You have one of the best boards as well as the best staffs around, and they are ready and eager and waiting for you. Also, this is a jewel. Bay City, the town, is a jewel. I've already made friends at K2. At the same like my husband even drove up last night to come and have dinner at K2, so I am definitely going to come back. I want to say to the administrative staff who's done so much work this summer in preparation for back to school, please continue to work. Don't stop until you're proud. Don't stop until you're proud. And remember that we work for children. That's what we do. We work for children. Don't work for adults, we work for children. And then finally, for every problem, there's a solution. So don't forget that. Thank you all so much. It has indeed been my pleasure.
Thank you for your service to Bay City in a short time of transition. You have made it the summer go by in ways that we did not believe could. We all went into the summer thinking, oh, this is gonna be a rough one, but you have done a magnificent job and we appreciate you from the bottom of our hearts. And thank you for stepping in a time such as this to launch us into the new school year and into our next couple years. So we really truly appreciate it. Thank you all so much. All right, is there a motion to be made? No, that's.
I move to hire Dr. White as superintendent of schools and approve the terms and superintendent contract as discussed in closing.
There is a motion on the table. Is there a second to his motion? Trustee Robinson has seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes 6-0. Welcome on board.
Just real quick, I'm thanking the board for the opportunity, and I know boards very rarely give themselves credit, but there's some things I have to say. In coming to Bay City, everything happens for a reason. This was meant to be the whole way through. Blessed to be here. What I observed through the process was a rigorous process, and this board was set on getting everything that they wanted. It was a rigorous process. I appreciate it. But the thing that I've observed, and this being my third meeting, is number one, the commitment to things like compensation. You guys shared in the interview process about the retention piece that Tony mentioned. You're sold on that. You're in on that. And Lone Star governance. Lone Star governance is the exception. It's not the rule. And what you've seen from this board is they are willing to be vulnerable and even evaluate themselves right in front of the whole audience. And I would say that you guys are probably the toughest critics on yourself, but there's so much positive stuff that's going on here. I cannot wait to dig in, can't wait to roll up my sleeves with the rest of you. Community presentations, I'm excited about that. And maybe even a state presentation, because I think what you all are doing, and what you're committed to, and what we've seen, the state needs to see. And I think that is something that TASB would be thirsty for someone to come forward like this body, this governing body, and do that, so that everyone can see what LSG is about and the commitment that we're totally committed to success, and it's in front of everyone. You always hear the word transparency, and I don't see how you could be more transparent than to evaluate yourself in front of all your stakeholders. And now you see other districts jumping right in, scheduling it, because it is absolutely great stuff. So thank you again. I appreciate the opportunity.
We're excited for you to join the team. It's gonna be a good one. All right, is there a motion to be made?
Make a motion to approve the hiring of contractual personnel.
Yes, sir. Is there a second to his motion?
I'll second.
All right, there is a motion and a second to approval of hiring the contractual personnel. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 6-0. All right, we're going to jump back up and hear from our district safety and security report from Chief Penny.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, again, I want to welcome Dr. for being part of our team and to school board tonight. I want to give you an update of what the Bay City ISD Police Department, along with our staff, is doing in our schools. As you all know, that Uvalde incident that occurred was a very tragic event. That's one of the things we never want to happen in Bay City, Texas. We can prevent it. But in case it does, we certainly want to make sure that we have put all of our protocols in place that we can move forward. And so tonight, after looking over the Uvalde report, some of the things that we saw in the report that they failed at basically was, first of all, they failed to put law enforcement protocols in place. And you'll see that through the PowerPoint. You saw there were like over 376 agencies that came on campus, first responded, and everybody was running around, like people in a Chinese fire or something. And so one of the things that we have done here at ACISD and the police department is that we're working hand in hand consistently with all of our first responders, Bay City Police Department, Matagorda County Sheriff Department, our EMS, all those people, we're working to make sure that we all be on the same page if we did have some type of event to occur. One of the other things that we noticed in that report was there was inadequate safety measures. If you look on the PowerPoint, let me back up and tell you update on safety and security protocol. First of all, we want to ensure that all of our staff have been familiarized with campus emergency operations plan and emergency preparedness plan. For the past 2 years, the last couple of years, our lieutenant is Heather Lewis. She has been constantly upgrading our emergency management plan and our emergency management manual. What that is that those are protocols that are set in place for each campus. Also, our district has what you call our Raptor system, which is an app that all of our employees have access to. And on that particular Raptor system, I have the emergency management plan. I have everything in there in case an event occurs. So we're very proud to have that in place. Each campus leader has a hard copy of those plans, and those documents can be accessed, like I said, through that Raptor application. So those plans are in the front office of each campus. And so if our system went down, we could go back to the manual way of doing things. A district standard policy district-wide should be established and a culture created on respective campuses pertaining to keeping doors locked, interior and exterior doors, secure during instructional time. One of the things that was found in the report was from Uvalde was that they created a culture that was lax. They propped doors open, which that young man came through and committed that crime. One of the things we want to make sure that we take real serious this year is that we do not drop any doors open. We don't want any doors open. We want to make sure that we keep all our doors locked. The maintenance director and I and Lieutenant Lewis have talked about that. We want to make sure that if some doors are that need different locks on, we want to make sure that we have that in place. Let's see, the next thing is behavior threat assessment team. We're happy to announce right now that there are 3 campuses that have already put their behavior threat assessment teams in place. And the other 2 campuses are working on that at this time. So we want to make sure that's state law, that we must have those threat assessment teams in place before the beginning of the school year. Somebody might ask, well, what is a behavior threat assessment team? That is a team of people on the campus who are chosen to make sure that they take the proper training to be able to identify any student that may be a threat, maybe having a behavioral problem in our school. So those teams come together and they discuss that, then they bring that student in, and then they have a set of guidelines which they ask questions and go by to ensure that if that student is having a mental breakdown, we have protocols in place to help them to get to the right place. Active shooter and intruder training for all staff within the first semester. We were proud to do this last year. Active shooter training for all of our campuses. We want to make sure that in case an active shooter or intruder comes on any of our campuses, we want to make sure that from a teacher to a substitute to a custodian to all personnel, that they know exactly what to do in case something happens. Then ACISD Police Department Safety and Security Audit Update. I think every 3 years, the state requires that an audit report be done for all school districts. And matter of fact, I think 1 year we've done it twice. So that's how serious our school board is about our security. I'm happy to report that Bay City administration has now going to add a security vessel and add security cameras and exterior numbering on doors. In the past, you could just walk in here and certainly we don't want to see anybody come in. We've had people come in the past and we came over and had to get them out of the building. Luckily, they didn't do anything wrong. But unfortunately, we're going to make sure that this place is secure. The board has agreed that to get that done, and we're going to make sure that happens. If you look down the list, John Cherry has added additional cameras. Lenny Roberts, I'm going to talk about the exterior number on doors in just a minute. Denny Holmes, you see adding additional security cameras. Bay City Junior High the same, and Bay City High School. We want to make sure, I was telling Ms. Carmen always makes a joke. She always say, I never see you. I told her, I'm like, my name, but she don't see me, but I see her. We're looking at, we're always looking at the cameras to make sure that people are safe. Those are some of the things we do. This is something that we're really proud of that we're getting done. And that is exterior numbering on doors. What we're doing is that if you check the Uvalde report, whenever they didn't know exactly where to go, and when outside agencies come in because they're not maybe familiar with that particular campus, everybody's all over the place. So we're putting a systematic numbering system in place over every campus where if an event occurs, then we will all be speaking the same language where everyone will know exactly where to go. So we're proud of making that happen. ACISD safety and security reporting process for law enforcement safety recommendations. These are safety recommendations that we are recommending this year, and that is to train staff on reporting criminal and suspicious activity on campus. We want to make sure that all of our staff is trained. If you see any kind of suspicious activity, I think I've been around long enough that I've heard some strange stuff. I know one time somebody said that, it looked like a bunny rabbit out there on the back of the field. Well, if it's a bunny rabbit, we want to go get it. And so we want to make sure that we report all activity. And then we want to make sure our administrative team knows, and then we want to make sure that our campus law enforcement is working hand in hand with them. I talked a little bit about the rapid application. Every employee will be given an opportunity to use that app. And on that app, it will basically give you all of the all of the necessary emergency things that you need to respond. And so that is another tool that all of our employees will have. Along with the quick tip line, pick up the phone, if something is suspicious, you call that, I think it goes directly to HR automatically shifts that to our office, and then we'll get on it. So we want to make sure we do that. Safety recommendation. Safety recommendation. Exterior fencing for Bay City Junior High and Bay City High School. The reason why, if you look over most of our schools, fencing is inadequate, to just face it. And one of the things that we saw in the Uvalde report was that they had fence that were not just not good. And then they had 5-foot fence. One of the things we learned through the report, and that we've learned this summer through training, is that we want to make sure that we slow the intruder down. Even if we can't stop the intruder from coming in, we want to make sure that we slow him down. One of the things I said on Thursday to our administrative team is that we have a response time here in Bay City, and I don't want it out in the public, so I'm not going to take what the response time is. But within that response time, still things could happen in a moment's time. So we want every security mechanism we can have to slow the intruder down. And one of the recommendations we're making here tonight is that we're asking that fencing be put up around all of our schools, so that we feel that will help us to maybe even make the intruder go another way. The other thing is concrete barriers for Penny Home. Mr. Savage and I had talked about that, and over at Penny Home School, as you all know, that's one of the main drags, Nichols Street. One of the things that I go to sleep at night and wake up at night, sometimes I think about, if somebody's gonna come there and run their vehicle while the children are on the playground. We're recommending concrete barriers. If we get those concrete barriers in that place, I believe that it will slow and stop the vehicle from coming in. Advanced accurate reporting system for non-functional equipment, doors, lock, alarms, light, etc., for immediate attention. The system we have in place is in place. It hasn't been what we consider to be the best. And we talked about that. How can we make a more active system to report these things? One of the things in the Uvalde report, it showed that there was the system breakdown. Supposedly the doors had been reported that they were locked, needed to be locked, and it fell through the loop. So we want to make sure that we have a system in place that immediately, if a teacher, parent, or somebody report that there is a lock problem, a door problem, a alarm problem, a light problem, we want to be making sure that we get immediately to that. Then we want to ensure that all Bay City ISD police officers are assigned one master key for all district facilities. In the Uvalde report, the chief didn't even have a key to get into that building. And in some of our buildings, we have changed lock. And it's not against anyone, it's not necessarily fault, it's not anybody's fault, it's the way things have been. And so, in order, we want to make sure that wherever I go, I need to dig or our offices, something goes on, we need to have one systematic key to get in there so that we won't have that problem. Off-campus cameras need to be properly labeled with identification purposes. We talked with our IT director about that, and we want to make sure that when we look on the screen, if we have a situation, an event, and perhaps local law enforcement or first responders come in, we want to make sure that if we look at those monitors, we want to be able to determine exactly where the intruder or the shooter may be. And so that's the other thing that we're working on. Now, this is the one I said, this was more than it's probably going to get me in trouble. No public access be given to any campus facility during the regular school hours. What do I mean by that? I don't know many schools in the state of Texas that allow the public, the general public, to come on campus and perhaps even use the track, play tennis, or do whatever while school is in session. I know times have changed, and one of the recommendations I'm making is that, we don't have any public access to any facility while school is in session. Reason why? Because we can't identify who's who. We don't know if they come into play tennis, we don't know if they walk in the track. And when our students are having extracurricular activity, we want to make sure that they're safe at all times. And so, those are just a quick version of what I'm doing. I'm like a preacher, I went to the fast part first. So, I want to say tonight that those are the recommendations we're making. Yes, sir.
Chief, would you even extend that to, after school, regular school hours just driving to the meeting today, all of our cross-country kids were starting to show up out there and all of our athletes were out there, but then the general public's out there as well. Would you even extend it into those times or would that be?
I think that was something that I wouldn't want to extend that for.
Yeah.
But doing the regular school hours.
When the,
yeah.
when everybody's.
Right.
And Chief, especially on the primary, or the classroom doors required to stay locked at all times.
That depends on, that's what I'm recommending. That's what I'm recommending. We talked with principals and we want to create that culture. If the superintendent approves that, we want to create that culture where all doors are locked during instructional time. We have already prepared, our officers who will be placed at each campus. They will give a daily report at the end of the day, saying what doors were not locked and what doors were locked. That will be given to the principal, and then it will be given to our safety coordinator.
I think that's one of the things that we really need to watch. Because someone comes knocking on the door, and everyone's quick to jump up and open the door. No, you're not opening it. The people that need to be in that key, the administrators, whatever, but don't open the door. So that was one of my favorite ones. All classrooms, I don't care, all of them, they need to be locked at all times.
So,
And I remember from sitting in the administration retreat, it's not oh, I got you, you didn't lock your door. It's a culture that we're trying to create. And so he said that from the front of the room with all the administrators. And I thought that is what needs to, we're not trying to get anybody in trouble. We're not trying to do anything. We're really doing it because it's what's best for our students in our district and to keep everyone safe. So it's not intentionally trying to pull anybody out or point anybody out, but really we just need to create that culture of this is the expectation, starting in this building all the way, Cherry, all of our campuses, all of our facilities.
It's the same thing with bags. No one comes to walk into a classroom and all it's not. And I mean, including us. We need to stop it at all this. We need to get bags. We need, I don't care if they say, oh, I'm still bored. I don't care. Still, you need to, if not, they need to be reported. Follow the same. Correct.
I will say this, Mr. Austin, that for the most part, our administrators, they really do a good job of thinking people that nobody walk on, even myself. I walked on the campus before and they say, hey, hold on, you can't come in here. I go, whoa, wait a minute. That's the culture that they have created, and we want to make sure we keep that in place.
Correct. Are there any other questions? I know it's just a report this evening, so taking your recommendations and having discussions, kind of where we're going to go, what we're going to do. I know that money was set aside in the budget allotted for certain things within the budget within your department. And so having those conversations, I think we'll continue. This is just the beginning of it. I would like to take your recommendations and think about and figure out, get more information because of prices, what that looks like, play it out. And I know that some of that stuff is already taking place, getting not approval, but requests for how much things cost and what that would look like and how we put this into place. It's not going to be an overnight fix, but this is a start. And I appreciate you coming out and telling us and telling the community what we're doing in Bay City to keep our students safe, because that's our number one. Is there any other comments or questions?
I'm just saying, if the chief of police of Bay City ISD recommends it and it's good for our students, then we should do it. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, moving on to items of business, the approval of the consent agenda. The approval of the minutes of previous board meeting, July 21st, 2022, special board meeting, approval of the 2022 appraisal roll, the second reading of local policy update, 119 CPC local, office management, records management, DMA local, professional development, required staff development, EHAA local, basic instruction program, required instruction all levels, EHBB local, special programs gifted to talented students, EIF local, academic achievement, graduation, FFBA local, crisis intervention, trauma informed care, FFH local, student welfare, freedom from discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. Is there anything from that list that anyone would like to pull off of the consent agenda? Is there any further discussion? Is there a motion to be made?
Make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Is there a second to his motion? I have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes 6-0. All right, is there, before we adjourn, very quickly, I know we've moved through, I would like to say Caitlin, the superintendent secretary, is moving on to a different position outside of Bay City. So we just wanted to thank you for your work. I know that you came in and it was drinking from a fire hose, and we truly appreciate what you did for our superintendent, for Terry, and for this transition. It really, you helped tremendously. So thank you so much for your efforts and your hard work in today's City ISD.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Is there a motion to adjourn? Ms. Cox is making a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Trustee Munoz is seconded. Is there any further discussion? Please remember that there will be cake and a reception afterwards for all of you to enjoy and to celebrate our new superintendent. Hearing.
Mark's, Mr. Mark's, Sardella, going to go to that office.
Right, hearing no further discussion, all in favor of adjournment, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes 6-0. We will adjourn at 7:37. Thank you all for coming.